Helminth builds become better each time Digital Extremes introduce a new warframe in the game. For example, when the developers introduced the Evade skill of Site-09 to the Helminth system, it fixes a lot of survivability issues, especially for those glass cannon warframes. The ability lets you have infinite invisibility, and it introduces a whole new gameplay to the community. Take note that Evade rewards you for each precision kills, and every time you kill an enemy with a headshot, the invisibility extends, and you can keep this up for as long as you are doing headshot kills. Evade can be equipped on every warframe in the game, and honestly, it felt like the Naramon Shadow Step was revived when Digital Extremes released this as a Helminth skill. The only difference is, the Shadow Step requires you to do critical hits with your melee, and Evade is more towards gun, but can also be good while using gun blades. The only downside of the ability is that it's more built towards a more slow-paced gameplay, and some players who like the fast-paced gameplay to satisfy their dopamine dose might not like this at all. However, Evade is one of the best, if not the best skill when it comes to level cap, as it solves all your survivability problems. It's super busted when you pair it with Incarnon Dual Toxicist that has a ricochet mechanic that allows the bullets to sometimes hit the head of enemies and kill them. In addition, there are lots of precision weapons in the game, such as beam weapons, that makes hitting the weak spots of enemies super easy. Just make sure you don't end up going into a nullifier bubble, as your invisibility will break. Another decent form of survivability that you can use now in the Helminth system is subsuming Kome to get her Omamori charm skill. Like I always said, this skill is like a budget Mesmer skin, and this is also a great survivability setup for any warframes in the game. The thing about Omamori is that it gives you 10 to 20 charms, and one will be consumed to negate any incoming damage. In addition, instead of getting damaged, you will be healed, and if you are at full health, then it will give you shield instead, which can become overshield values. Like Evade skill, this is great for glass cannons, but Omamori allows you to have a fast-paced gameplay, as it's not like Evade wherein you need to have precision shots. Once you cast it, you will get Omamori charms, and you just need to recast it again if the ability expires. However, it's not as effective as Evade, as Omamori has a cooldown timer once you consumed a charge. You would need to wait for 3 seconds for its internal cooldown before you can use another charge again. This is why I always recommend pairing the Omamori with shield gating and something to keep your health at max values all the time. Now, there are many setups to achieve this feat, and I'll give you one example of them. Omamori is great when paired with the shield gating mechanic. Do remember that the skill has the feature to give constant shield values if you have maxed health always. In addition, before your health values get hit, damage will need to bypass first the shield gating mechanic that grants you a couple of seconds invulnerability, depending on the shield value you have in your warframe. If you are using a weapon that heals your warframe, such as the Sancti Magistar, or even the Panzer Wolfafila with its Martyr Symbiosis mod, then you have the option to keep your health at pristine condition. This means that every time Omamori charge is spent, it will overflow to shields, allowing you to also abuse the shield gating mechanic in the game. It's also potent when you pair it with Equinox that has the feature to grant shield per kill, and its instant shield restore even if shield gating's invulnerability is active. Such glass cannon frames can be good in steel path levels and beyond because of the Omamori skill, and it's one of my highly recommended skills to use in the Helminth system right now. The 2 new subsumed abilities are great for warframes right now, but there are other options, and let me tell you more subsumed skills that I can recommend using right now in the Helminth system. First, I would like to talk about Thermal Sunder. This skill will forever stay popular in the Helminth builds, not because of its power, but because of its usefulness in farming. This ability is commonly subsumed in Titania to create the perfect prime parts farming warframe in the game. The mobility of Titania, plus huge area damage of Heat Thermal Sunder, allows you to breeze Void Fissure Exterminate or capture missions fast, and farm prime parts at the fastest time possible. There are also cases wherein players subsumed Thermal Sunder to Garuda for the same purpose. Although you lost the mobility provided by Titania's Razor Wing ability, you can spam Thermal Sunder infinitely because of Garuda's skill to restore energy at will. Finally, some uses Thermal Sunder as a mean to level up their warframes in Sanctuary Onslaught, but it's kind of outdated now since it cost a lot of Helminth resources to subsume Thermal Sunder whenever you need to level up a warframe. Also, there are better leveling methods right now. Despite the reduction of usability, Thermal Sunder will still remain as one of the popular subsumed skills in the game. Now, let's talk about Zada's Whisper, Roar, and Eclipse. These damage boosting skills are still good, but I would like to discuss in this video when to use these abilities so you won't end up wasting Helminth resources. To be honest, I rarely used Roar in my Helminth builds, as the only time I need this is when I am trying to create a damage over time build or help increase a specific ability of a warframe. Take note that this skill doesn't just boost the damage of your weapons, but also warframes, and it's super good when subsumed with exalted users in the game. In addition, Roar is very potent with any damage over time builds, especially when you are using damage types like Slash, Toxin, Gas, or Heat. When you pair Roar with elemental damage mods plus faction mods, then it will cause a double dipping effect that grants you increased damage per tick of any DOT builds. Meanwhile, Zada's Whisper is one of my favorites subsume skill in the game. What it does is provide your guns with void damage and status effect. Then, it will have this mini magnetize effect, wherein you can pull off headshots easily if you just aim close to the head of enemies. The bullet will have a chance to hit an enemy heat if you proc Zada's Whisper and shoot your guns near the head of enemies. Finally, Zada's Whisper has this mechanic that allows you to inflict one extra hit per damage instance. Given that you have good status chance, preferably over 100% status chance in your weapon, then Zada's Whisper can proc the magnetize, extra hit, and void damage constantly. This makes your gun an insane DPS machine, and I highly recommend trying this out with the Latum. Devouring Attrition Latum is busted with Zada's Whisper, as the damage boost of the Incarnon pistol gets carried over to Zada's Whisper extra damage instant. This makes the gun busted and can melt almost any enemies in the game easily. And finally, let's talk about Eclipse. This skill has been nerfed, and the damage buff to weapons now is nothing compared to the past Helminth version of Eclipse. However, the skill is better now, since it can be used efficiently by any warframe combos that you want damage boost. In the past, the only way to keep the damage boost of Eclipse is to use invisibility, as the buff gets snapshot while you are invisible, and this allows you to use the damage boost all the time. Right now, Eclipse has the option to get either the damage buff or 75% damage reduction with a press of a button. Simply press the skill and you'll get the damage reduction, while holding it will give you the weapon damage boost. Although the damage boost got nerfed, I still like the ability as it allows your endgame weapons to hit millions of damage easily. You will need a lot of power strength in your build right now to get more than 100% damage boost from the Helminth version of Eclipse, but it's still one of the best subsumed skills in my opinion, as it's now working for all warframes, and it does provide insane damage boost to almost all weapons in the game. The other damage boosting ability that I haven't mentioned is Wrathful Advance, but I intended not to include it with the other damage boosting skills, as Wrathful Advance is in a different category. The other damage boosting skill does work with any weapons, while Wrathful Advance is exclusive for melee weapons. Although Wrathful Advance has diminished effect as a subsume skill, you can still hit those red crit numbers with your melee weapons by having lots of power strength in your build. The skill is also busted. It works with other damage boosting skills. For example, you can subsume this with Mirage. Not only that, you get red crit now with your melee weapons, but you also get a huge damage boost from your Eclipse ability. This is one of those combos that can easily hit 2 billion damage in the game, but just a reminder that doing this will affect your survivability. Most probably, you'll need something to help Mirage survive Steel Path enemies, as she will be a glass cannon with a Wrathful Advance build. Also, I would like to mention Nourish in this video. As always, this subsume skill is a popular option as it allows your guns to deal Nourish damage and its status effect, plus give you energy multiplier that allows you to get rid of any energy problems without even using Arcane Energize. Pair Nourish with the Zeneric Focus, or even the mods that grants energy per second will fix any energy problems and as well as boost the damage of your guns. Another good option now is the shock ability of Volt, subsumed to any melee influence warframe combo. The Shock Trooper augment will provide electric damage to your guns, and this allows you to proc the melee influence arcane on your melee weapons. The electric status does not combine with any other elements in your build, and this is a good option when you are building a melee build that wipes a room with the specific arcane. Then, I would also like to talk about Condemn and Pillage. The Condemn skill of Harrow is a great ability for restoring shield per enemy hit. It also allows you to stun lock enemies in place, making it easier to headshot enemies and activate various buffs from precision shots. On the other hand, Pillage is still a good option, especially with the shield gating mechanic. The ability provides instant shield restore, and it does strip defenses of enemies, making it a good offensive skill also. And finally, I would like to talk about Petrify. This is just a personal choice, but I strongly recommend trying this out with warframes like Varuna or Nidus. This ability has the Orgaze augment that grants extra loot per petrified enemy killed. The only problem is that it needs 400% power strength to get 100% extra loot, and this was very hard in the past. Right now though, it's really easy with the Archon system and the new power strength arcanes. You will love this with Varuna or Nidus. Not only that, you will have fun playing these warframes with their powers, but you can actually make them useful for farming in Steel Path survival runs. Honestly, these are not the Helminth skills that are good right now, and there are specific builds that will make your warframes better. However, most of these abilities are great for general use, and some of them provides other benefits such as farming, rather than just increasing the power of your warframes. The Helminth system is really a great feature in the game, and I can't wait what other abilities we can use in the future. By the way, if you want to add your personal favorite Helminth builds, then feel free to share it in the comment section below, and let's discuss it. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again in my next video.